Hi everybody, I'm Bobby Wilson, and okay. So I'm really grateful to be part of the Grasslands outreach group. I attended the first summit, and it was so interesting to have Laura kind of gather people in their interest and such. So that was kind of how it started. We initially got together and created a communications plan and to create a target audience for outreach and promotion. So with that target audience, we troubleshooted and came up with urban and suburban groups, travelers, tourism, also policymakers and producers and ranchers, and also non-operating landowners. We kind of targeted those groups for this first year. We created a shared calendar event and communication groups to kind of work those calendars. And the monthly meetings would have about 20 people almost every month. We had quite a few events that we created this year, which were wonderful. We wanted to make sure that the grasslands were represented at events around the state. We did events at McCrory Garden, the Garden Discovery Day. We did an event at SDSU. We created 2 parties on the prairie, which were amazing. One was East River and one was West River. The East River one was at Posk Hill, and the West River was at Dry Creek Ranch. We targeted policymakers and influencers for that kind of audience group. Then we also did 3 bike gravel races called the Grasslands Triple Crown. And those were just amazing. And the bike races are very popular. So it was a wonderful way to have bike races in the grasslands. And this now for the acres of grassland. There are now 26 million acres of grassland. So the idea is to bike or ride or drive or hike or horseback ride through 46.9 acres. And on the events which are on the website and also in flyers, you can, and it's a wonderful way to do that before the 4th of July and to help to have more education for people, so to understand how much has been lost and how important it really is.
Hi there, everyone. Thanks for making it out to Mitchell here today. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of the Education Work Group. I'm Carter Sargent, the monarch and pollinator biologist here in South Dakota for Pheasants Forever. All right, the first thing is we've been working. Some of my favorites in there are the plant ID. So that toad is all ready for you to check out at a few different locations throughout the state. And if you have any questions on that, we can answer that here at the end of the day. But the next one here is after school activities. So that kind of came from the 4-H trailers. And we wanted to put a few activities in there to spruce things up and let folks know about grassland education. We've done quite a few different activities to add into that trailer. The most exciting one is the planner education activities. So if you guys see those grassland planners floating around at different tables, I have one back at the Pheasants Forever table, and I'm sure there are some at the front. This work group has been really focused on sharing resources. So instead of reinventing the wheel every time a need comes up for an activity, Pheasants Forever, Ducks Unlimited, all the other different organizations included can just share resources, where to find them, and we can come up with activities that way. So we're really key on connecting those. Ensures that when there's an event going on around the state, if I'm not able to make it, the Grassland Education Work Group tries to make sure that someone is there to cover grassland education at these events. A few of those events we've been is Duck Day in Wallace, Ag Day at the Washington Pavilion, which is coming up in a few weeks. Actually, this weekend is Ag Day in Washington Pavilion, so come check that out if you are in the area. The Sioux River Folk Fest, or the Big Sioux River Fest. There's a few of them going on this year. That was a great opportunity for me to get paid while also listening to the Poe Ramblin' Boys and talking about grassland education. And then conservation in the city. We strategized and got some few of them on behalf of the brainstorming, ways that we can be more effective as partners. If we work together, we can get a whole lot more done as a group than we can as an individual. We're starting a high school focus for prescribed fire curriculum, so we'll try to make sure that meets all of the requirements that it needs to be in a school, while also people on how prescribed fire can be safe and how our state has had a whole lot less of it than some of us would like to see. So making sure that even the youth are understanding that fire can be safe. And our next call will be March 11th, and we encourage you guys to join. I started with the education work group in December of 2025, and it really jump-started my career in this position because it got me in touch with so many different resources. So while I might not be able to have the perfect handout, some partners would have some great handouts for that. All right, thank you so much.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Tom Zenter, Pheasants Forever, the Farm Bill Program Manager here in South Dakota. And I'll just be giving an update on the Connecting Grassland Producers and Programs work group that we have. And the main focus of this work group is to focus on the accessibility of different information that relates to conservation. The topic that the work group is really focused on is just supporting the existing tools that are out there with Conserve SD, which is a website put on by the SDACD that provides landowners with an area to find all the different existing programs and technical assistance providers throughout the state, as well as Habitat Pays put on through South Dakota Game Fish and Parks, which does a very similar concept of providing program information and different habitat advisors with more of a wildlife focus. As part of that, one of the hurdles that the work group identified with information on programs, once the information gets to the landowners, then getting the conservation to do their work and work in the field to implement. Conserve SD to provide a hub for different contractors throughout the state to put their contact information and have landowners have the ability to find that information there. Next, then, we also developed a concept with the Grassland Initiative website to create a calendar feature that shows all of the events that during the Private Lands Biologist Forum in 2024, our work group led conversations with the various conservation professionals on landowners and some of the hurdles that we're facing as professionals to the accessibility of information, getting that out to landowners, and what we see on a day-to-day basis of some hurdles that we have to cross. Next, then, we also developed an instrument for a survey of landowners across the state and wanted to get their perspective of what challenges they face and what problems they face when trying to find different programs and assistance that really helps the bottom line of their operations. We put a lot of work throughout the state. The work group is to continue on with that survey and gather the data so that we can further develop these tools and resources for landowners to gain accessibility to that information. Another thing that we've done is looked at the surrounding states and some of the work that they're doing to collaborate with and get information out. This is the North Dakota Meadowlark Initiative, and just looking at some of the collaborative nature that they're doing up in North Dakota and trying to implement some of those tools that we're missing here in South Dakota, even though I know a lot of our partners do a fabulous job at this point of the collaborative conservation approach. Another area that we focused on a lot is throughout the state. We identified that as an area that there seemed to be somewhat of a disconnect between the conservation professionals and the ag lenders, where that information wasn't getting shared as freely as we would hope. And so we did develop a ag lender handout that we're working with different ag lenders throughout the state that provides them with a lot of background information and these conservation professionals. Last fall, we led roundtable discussions again with the various conservation professionals that are working on private lands every day, and in order to put together a report and showing some different lessons learned of being able to connect with producers and ways to make that information more accessible. So it's been a pleasure being on the work group, and we'll keep moving forward. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is AJ. My family and I on this policy work group now for coming up on 2 years. It's actually kind of my entry point into this whole conservation constellation. Answered an email, and before you know it, I'm on the South Dakota Grassland Coalition to step back, and so some opportunities came up with some of the other boards that he was also a part of, and so I've been stepping into some of those roles as well. So been drinking out of a fire hose for the last couple of years, but it's been great getting to understand more about everything that's going on, and really excited with some of the things that are happening on the policy front. First off, I got to thank Laura Kaler. She's been tremendous, helping to coordinate and all the conversations that we talk about a million different things, and she's great about we are actually able to achieve. And then I also want to thank Liz too for the Second Century Habitat for putting these slides together for me. We've got monthly meetings like the other work groups. There's about 20 of us, represent different agencies, partner organizations involved with, we really spent just focusing on what our policy priorities were and what strategies we wanted to take in order to execute some of those priorities. Through those conversations, we decided that, while there's a lot of things going on at the state level, the federal policy is really what dictates what's happening to grasslands here in South Dakota, and that's where we've decided to spend most of our time. And when it comes to federal policy, the Farm Bill is really the main thing that we focus on more of the risk of farming marginal croplands to taxpayers, and we've seen that at the expense of our grasslands, and so that's where we decided to dig in. We've had it's been part of the conversation now for just over a year. We had some legislation introduced by Senator Thune, the CRP Improvement and Flexibility Act, and so we talked with their office quite a bit about that and put forward some recommendations on things that we'd like to see changed with CRP. Also having conversations around sod saver as well. Part of that legislation is getting sod saver. Right now, sod saver is just for 6 states here in the upper Midwest, but that would structured pretty similar to the North American Wetlands Conservation Act, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with in here. With those conversations, we have developed really good relationships with the South Dakota delegation. Prairie Potholes joint venture fly-in, met with Senator Thune's office, met with Senator Rounds, also been working really closely with Congressman Johnson's office as well. To give you a little bit of idea of what's going on right now, one recommendation that has been gaining a lot of traction, we've been putting a lot of focus on, is a proposal that we call Working Land CRP. And right now with the Farm Bill markup going on in the House, and it looks like the Senate's going to take up Farm Bill discussions later this spring. Long time to. And our Working Land CRP proposal is in a nutshell, we're asking for 10 to 20 million acres of marginal cropland to get planted back to grass and put into a working land CRP program that would pay producers to manage those. And we've had a lot of good conversations. We'll continue to have more of those conversations as the Farm Bill conversations continue to take place. But it's really great to see that 2 years worth of strategy and work on grassland policy is starting to come to fruition, and hopefully you'll see some of the impacts of those pretty shortly. But I encourage you, if you have any interest in this at all, please get a hold of